What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is Friday, BagRiders Block Party, and spoiler alert, check it out, we made it. So the last week was pretty crazy, took a lot to get to this point, so let's go back in time. Let's see what it took to get here, and hopefully we can see this thing cruising around this weekend. So we left off last time on the brakes where I needed that rear wheel cylinder. So that arrived, I got that installed. Then I went to bleed the brakes. I tried bleeding the brakes for about 3 hours and I could not get a firm pedal. I ran out of fluid, so I had to call it a night. I was thinking there was just air trapped in the master cylinder, but I came out to the garage the next morning and there was a huge pool of brake fluid right underneath the middle of the car. So I think one of the brake lines had split or ruptured. Let me show you where we're at. So you can see the brake line comes through the firewall for the right rear. It makes a couple of 90-degree bends, and luckily there's a union right there, so I just need to replace from there to the firewall. But right here in the corner, you can see she's a leaking. So hopefully I can get this repaired. I don't have any other problems with the brakes, and we could move on to finishing up the wiring and getting this thing running. Okay. So for the disaster of the last 24 hours, I finally fixed that brake line. Let me show you what I had to do. So you can see I have passenger seat out, carpet up. I managed to cut the brake line here, put an M10-1 flare nut on it for the brake line. I have a female union. And then this is all the new section of line that I ran back to this junction here. That was already there. Whether that's factory or not, I don't know, but lucky it was there because I could tie into that. Everything back from there looks nice and clean on the brake line. I've bent it into that factory location as best as I can. I came up a little higher towards the fender instead of running along the floor, and I have the system pressurized right now, and it is holding pressure right here on my pressure bleeder, right at about 10 psi. So I know that the whole braking system holds pressure. So let's try and get this back on the lift and bleed the brakes. And just want to show you the tools I've been using. So regular pipe cutter there, and then this right here is a flaring tool for brake lines. Okay guys, quick fire updates for you. I am running out of time. I am down to the wire, so it's kind of challenging and it takes more time for me to actually shoot, set up the camera, do the time lapse and all the rest of it. So I am just plowing on with it, getting on with it, and I'm just gonna throw these little updates to show you guys the progress. Fingers crossed I can still make this deadline. It is currently Saturday. The show starts on Wednesday, so hopefully in the evenings, Wednesday, Thursday, I can get it ready and actually start cruising around town in it. So last little update, we left off with me fixing that brake line, pressurizing the brake system. Since then, I have bled the brakes. I had a little bit of trouble with the master cylinder. I had some air stuck in that. I found a really neat way of doing it though to get the air out of the master cylinder. I kind of bench bled it, but on the car, and I used my pressure system. So what I did, I pressurized the system. I went to the right rear. I cracked the bleed nipple just the tiniest little bit so the fluid just starts to come out, and then I pump the pedal inside of the car. And because you've got pressure at the reservoir and the valve is open, it's just pushing fluid and all of the air through the master cylinder. So managed to get that bled. The brake pedal is nice and firm. It holds pressure, which is good. And then let's see, I've got the interior back in, which is really nice. And I was just putting in a block off panel. So where the heater core usually goes through, pull that tape off. You can see I have a little block off panel, and that is just 1/4 inch plywood, spray painted black. It's bolted up through the existing holes where the heater core mounted to, and then I actually mounted the ECU to the underside of that, and I put some weather stripping around. So you can see right here, ECU is mounted to the bottom of that block off panel. The white stuff bulging out the side is just a little bit of weather seal. So I can hide all my wires under here where the heater core would be. Now I just need to kind of really figure out the rest of the wiring. So I have a few wires to connect up from the ECU, and I have a new fuse panel. So I need to put that in, and I need to figure out which wires I need to pull out. Yeah, not looking forward to this. Fingers crossed I can get it done. If I can get that done, I need a new battery. Let's check out my checklist. So heater block off, I can check that. Battery, fluids, eyeball alignment, put the dash in, wiring. If I can get that done and this thing fires, I'm gonna be so sick. It's a nice sunny Sunday morning here in Vermont, nice and early. Gonna load up the old battery, head down to the auto parts store, grab a new battery and some fuses. Hopefully get back in time for the Formula One. And yeah, let's get on with it. You saw this morning, I went to Advance, I got a new battery, so that is in. Slightly smaller one, about 9 inches wide, fits there perfectly. The coolant hose does touch a little bit. I'll just have to keep an eye on that and see if it rubs. I hooked up all my positive cables to the positive terminal of the battery. So these two on the top go inside to the ECU. They power the ECU and the fuel pump. The one on the left with the black wire goes to the fans, and the solid red goes inside of the cabin to power the fuse panel. So as far as I'm concerned, under the engine bay is done. I put water in it last night. I had to swap out one of the coolant hoses on the radiator because it was leaking a little bit. Those stupid Volkswagen clamps, this one was leaking, so I swapped that out. It's holding coolant. I put about a gallon of fuel in the tank. It's no leaks back there either. So I think under the hood, it's all done. Let's go inside. Before we go inside, let me show you something. This was the fuse panel that I took out. You can see a little bit of sadness on there. Looks like some water had been pooling, just rusted a little bit. Wasn't as bad as I originally thought. That probably would still work. And then the front, kind of the clear case, is being kicked off. Some of the fuses missing. I don't know if they're intentionally missing or not. But I managed to find on eBay, listed as Mark 1 Rabbit diesel, an early Mark 1 Rabbit diesel fuse box with the wiring loom. I messaged the seller a couple of times. He didn't get back to me. I wanted to know the condition of it. I couldn't see a part number on the listing, but for $100, I thought I gotta go for it. So I've been sitting on that for a few weeks. It did arrive. First thing I did was check the part numbers. It is the same as the one that I pulled out. The next thing I did was all the fuses, not the fuses, actually, yeah, the fuses. I swapped out the fuses. So you'll see over here, I purchased just a box of, let's see, fuses, the old style fuses, and I swapped them all out. So these are some of the old ones. So I know all the fuses are new and good. I just swapped them out like for like. And then the next thing I did was Google the part numbers and all the relays to see what they were. So if anybody's interested, this one is glow plug relay. This one is seatbelt restraint warning relay. There is a load limiting or resisting one on the left there, and that one I believe is a turn signal relay. So what I very meticulously did was swap over wire for wire from the fuse panel that was in the car to the new fuse panel that I got. The only difference was the fuse panel in the car did not have a turn signal relay. I left it in there. We'll see if it works or not, I don't know. I deleted the glow plug relay, and that entirely from the fuse panel. I threw a quick post up online. A bunch of people got back to me saying, just get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. So that's what I did. Shout out to Dave at TDC Shop. He helped me with my last few wires. So there's a couple of wires for temperature and oil pressure that I just wire tapped into the wires that go to the cluster. That's it. So I reconnected the fuse panel up there. All these are just dash wires, so cluster, hazard lights, rear heated window. That's just need tidying up a little bit. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect the battery. I'm gonna turn the ignition on, and I'm gonna see if I can hear the fuel pump prime. Because if that primes, we're in really good shape. Then we might be able to fire this thing. Okay, check this out. Listen carefully, see if you can hear it on camera. I'm gonna turn the ignition on, listen for the fuel pump prime. It primes for 1 second, ready? I'll do it again. And I just got out of the car, and all the lights are on. Check it out. I got rear lights. The side markers all work. The front marker lights and the sides. Oh, that one's out. But what? 7 out of 8? That's not bad. I do want to check for fuel leaks. Fingers crossed I don't have any fuel leaks. I got my wife, Kat. She's gonna hold the camera. So quick update, I got everything back inside. The dash is in, all put back together. Last time we tried this, last 2 times, one time when I turned the key, it just didn't work. And then the second time, we jump started, it ran for 60 seconds, and the timing belt snapped on the old diesel engine. So, third time's lucky. I gotta give it to my wife. What do we think? Is it gonna start? Nothing. Nothing. So, same thing happened again. There must be something wrong with the ignition. Okay, take 2. Let's see if I figured it out. Are you ready? Oh, still nothing! God damn it. Take 7. No, it's like take 3.
Take 3.
Nothing. Damn it. Okay, another update. I promise you, I haven't tried this before, but I think I fixed it. I'm pretty confident. Let's see if it starts. Doesn't stop. Make noises though.
They made noises this time.
That was a little bit more.
It was different.
I think So what's this? Update number 6, number 7, I don't know. It's 9 o'clock, you can see it's dark out. I'm tired, but we are on our way back from Advanced Auto. I believe they sold me the wrong battery. I was there at the weekend, and you will have seen in the last clip when I went to crank it, the starter was kicking in, but it wasn't cranking the engine over. So I looked at the battery, and it had cold cranking amps of 495, which is too low. I believe the VR6 needs like 600, 650. So we just buzzed down to Advanced, swapped it out for the right battery, heading home. Let's see if this works. Okay, new battery's in. There we go. Almost sounds like the start was bad or something.
Are you excited? Okay guys, quick update for you. The last 24 hours
a lot has happened. So you will have seen in the previous few clips that first of all, there was no crank. So what I figured out was it was the seat belt interlock relay. What happens is when you crank the key at the ignition, it sends that signal down through the seatbelt interlock relay, and there's like, well, it's just a relay, right? So it then sends that 12 volts to the starter motor, but the seatbelt interlock relay failed, wasn't working, or there's some wires cut somewhere, so it just wasn't sending that signal to the starter. So I deleted that relay, just connected the wire from the crank on the ignition straight to the wire that goes to the starter motor, so it started to crank. You will have heard though, it wasn't turning over. It sounded like there wasn't enough juice in the battery, so we went down to advance, got a new battery, came home, same thing again. And then what I did was, of course, the first time it starts is when I'm not filming. I was just tapping the starter motor with a hammer. It sounds so simple, right? Old cars just hit the starter motor with a hammer, and hey, guess what? It fired right up. So that was last night. It fired up, we ran it. And then today, I just buzzed it up and down the driveway a little bit. The brake pedal is kind of soft, so I don't want to take it out on the road yet, but the engine runs pretty strong. So that's where we're at right now. Oh, the one other thing too is the coolant is kind of manky. I've flushed it a few times, but you can see it's kind of brown. The exhaust manifold was smoking a little bit too, but that's pretty normal when you put on a new exhaust. But yeah, engine runs strong. I'm gonna try and bleed the brakes probably tomorrow night because I am pretty tired tonight. So there's still a small chance I can get this down to Wolfsgart. If I can bleed the brakes and get a firm pedal, then this thing should be good to go. So stay tuned, fingers crossed, we'll see what happens.
First time taking it on the road.
Okay, update number 10, or whatever we're on right now. Today is Wednesday, 27th of July. Today was my deadline, first day of Wolfsgart. And as you can see, this thing is still on the lift. So I'm not gonna hit my deadline, but it is 5 days worth of events. I did give myself a little bit of buffer with the deadline. So I still have 2 days I'm gonna give myself till Friday to try and get this thing worked out to a point where I can drive it safely on the road. And I think I figured it out. So went for a quick drive yesterday, up and down the driveway. Brake pedal felt a little soft, and I was getting like a humming vibration noise from the right rear. So that I think was I didn't adjust the wheel bearing properly when I had the wheel drum off and replaced the wheel cylinder. So I redid that. I also figured out that the wheel bolts I have were too long and were catching on the inside of the bracket that holds the brake shoe inside the drum. So luckily I had some shorter wheel bolts, so I put them on. I believe I tightened the bearing correctly, so that should have fixed that. But when kind of testing the brakes, I actually put like a piece of wood on the brake pedal and kind of jammed it in there to simulate me having the foot on the brake. When I do that and I try and turn the front wheels with it on the lift, they're totally locked up. I can't move them. But when I go to the rear wheels, I can still spin them kind of freely by hand. There's a little bit of tension, but not much at all. If I pull the handbrake on, then the rear wheels lock up completely. So I think my problem with the brakes lies in what's called the rear proportioning valve. And what that is supposed to do is, I'll show you right here, that thing right there. So what that's supposed to do is when you put your foot on the brakes, it's basically a brake balancer. It adjusts how much pressure goes to the rear brakes so the rear wheels don't lock up before the front wheels. Obviously no ABS on a 45-year-old car. Front wheels locking up before the rear wheels is okay. Rear wheels locking up before the front wheels, that's no bueno. So I think what happens is the insides of that brake proportioning valve are just kind of seized, corroded, not giving me any brakes in the rear. So you can bypass them. People online don't recommend that because then they say you get full braking on the rear wheels and that can cause the rear wheels to lock up before the fronts. But I have the bigger G60 brakes on the front, so I'm already getting a lot more braking on the front axle. And like I said, if I can get these brakes figured out, I can get this thing down to the show at some point this weekend. So that's an update for you. I don't know what update we're on already. What, like 10, 12? I don't know. I lost count. So this is what I ended up doing. I had some braided brake line from when I bought the kit from Tech 53. I only needed the front lines, but it came as a complete kit. This is the rear lines that you use with a rear disc brake conversion. So I had the lines. What I did was just remove the proportioning valve altogether. So now the rear drum brakes are getting 100% of the brake pressure. The brake proportioning valve did look a little sorry for itself. The plunger kind of doesn't do much plunging. But the brake pedal kind of feels the same. I can still spin the rear drums with the brake pedal depressed, so I don't know if that's just how Mark-on brakes are. I have no benchmark for what they feel like, so I'm gonna throw the wheels back on, do a couple more things, and take it for another drive, see what it's like. All right, guys, last update for you. I just went down to the gas station, put 2-3 miles on this thing, and it runs good. Brakes are better, not amazing. I can see why people do rear brake conversions on these things, but I'm considering this thing good enough to start driving on the road. So today's Wednesday. Wolfsgart is another 4 days. Hopefully the weather cooperates. There is some rain showers forecast, and I can get this thing down to the showground at some point and show off my work. Still a long way to go with this car. There's a lot of things that it needs, but as far as like a phase one goes, a season one of the build, there we go, we have it. I hit my deadline on the dot, few hours to spare. It runs, it drives, it stops, it makes Wookiee noises. Let's go. Cruising in the Cali MK1 VR6 spot.
happened, Dave?
So, insert the clip here of me connecting that bypass hose for the heater core where I said it was questionable. And then just used a male-to-male connector here. Little bit suspicious about it. We'll see if it holds. Yeah, that blew off, so it was questionable.
Is that just like duct tape?
It's electrical tape.
It's just melted.
So basically that male-to-male connector, the two hoses are slightly different diameters. So I had to make one a little bigger. I used electrical tape. Obviously didn't work.
Can't get in the car.
Door just jammed.
Great. You want to update your fans?
So the key got jammed in the lock. Take a look.
Oh yeah.
So I had to go back home to get the key. Luckily you're only 10 minutes from home. Come back. Luckily I have a second key. Open the other door. Fire it up. Let's see if we can get this thing back home. Okay guys, last update for you. Today is Sunday, last day of the Wolfsgart show. Yesterday, Saturday, it was forecast to rain quite a lot during the day. The morning was dry and sunny, but the afternoon we had a lot of rain. So I decided to leave the rabbit at home for that. And you saw what happened on the drive home from BagRiders on Friday night. The coolant hose blew off. The key got stuck in the door. By the time I got home, the right front corner was getting kind of hot. So I think the caliper is sticking. So all those three things kind of put together, I decided to play it safe today, leave the rabbit at home. Although it was a really nice day, like 75 sunny, beautiful weather to be outside, enjoying the cars, hanging out with friends. I didn't video too much of the show, but I did have my GTI in alpha class, so you will have seen a few seconds of that in there. But yeah, I'm still happy. I met my goal. I got the rabbit down to part of the show. And like I said, I didn't want to take any chances, but my wife did get her wish of 2 years to go out and get ice cream. It's fine just to buzz a couple of miles into town, get some ice cream in it. So yeah. There we have. I am super stoked. It runs, it drives. Now we can get into ironing out some of those problems. I'm gonna wrap this episode up there. Once again, as always, thank you so much for watching. I had so many great comments about the car over the weekend. Thanks to everybody that waves, says hi, asks about the progress. It really means a lot to me, keeps me motivated. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, drop me a comment, and I will see you next time.